Well, we all could use a break from coronavirus coverage, and our next guest is here to help us think about other things for a few minutes. His new book, Duluth, an Urban Biography, is the first of a series from the Minnesota Historical Society Press. Joining us now from his Duluth home is Tony Dierckins, the publisher at Zenith City Press. And welcome, Tony. It virtually feels like you're right here in the studio with me.
It's virtually strange, Julie, but thanks for having me this afternoon, and I'm glad everybody's safe and healthy over there at WDSC.
And I hope it's the same in your household.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now, you normally write and publish books for your own company. How did you get involved with this Historical Society project?
They have had this idea for a few years of a series of urban biographies. They're doing one on Rochester, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. Four biggest cities in Duluth. I was approached by Ann Regan, the editor-in-chief, a couple years ago, and we talked about it. And it's a project that other people have asked me about doing similar projects to over the years. And I thought, great idea, but it's there, so I'm gonna join up with this group. They're good, they're dedicated. They do a wonderful job with the Historical Society. So I thought it would be a great chance to collaborate with someone else rather than take it on myself.
Now, 2020 is Duluth's 150th anniversary as a city, but your book goes back even further in history and looks at what it was like around here before Duluth. Why was it important for you to go back farther and maybe lay that groundwork?
You know, I joke that the book goes back 2.6 billion years to the formation of Lake Superior's bed. But the important part of the prehistory, because an urban biography is supposed to focus on the city, the municipality, Duluth, which founded as a town in 1856. But we have so much rich history before that. And of course, with the Native Americans were here for thousands of years before the European settlers who founded Duluth as the town and everything. This place was home to many peoples before it was home to those of us who consider ourselves Duluthians or who have since the 1850s.
Now, you selected some of the photos from the book to share, and maybe we could look at those images of early Duluth and you could talk about them a little bit. The first one, Duluth in 1873. What was the community like at that point in time?
Well, I chose that picture because it's one of the great ones of early Duluth, and it is, like you said, 150 years back. So what was life like back then? You know, there was only one or two buildings made of brick in town. They're all made of wood. The canal was just being developed with its wooden piers at the time, and you get a great view there from the top of the hillside looking out at Minnesota Point. That was Duluth. It only stretched from 3rd Avenue East to 8th Avenue East, from about 5th Street to further down Minnesota Point at the time. So it was a much smaller community, and that picture kind of encapsulates it for me, that perspective of just how small it was.
Mm-hmm. Now, Duluth has long had the nickname of the Zenith City, and you've kind of even taken on that name with Zenith City Press. Where did that name originate?
That is a name inspired by hope for the future. You see, in 1868, we were pretty certain Jay Cooke was going to bring his railroad, Lake Superior, Mississippi, and Northern Pacific Railroads, to terminate in Duluth. And we were so excited about it. Our newspaper editor, who hadn't even published an issue yet, Dr. Thomas Foster, who you see there, gave a grand oration on July 4th, 1868. And he said that the future Duluth, all roads would lead to it. It would be this giant shipping center, and Duluth would be the Zenith City of the unsalted seas, and it's had that nickname ever since.
You mentioned the railroads, and certainly the railroads were an important part of both the booms and the busts of the community over the years.
Absolutely. Duluth had started in the 1850s, then there was a big financial panic and everything went from boom to bust pretty quickly. And then in 1869, when Jay Cooke actually announces he's bringing the railroads here, we boomed. We went from less than 200 people to 3,100 in less than 11 months. Mm-hmm. And on March 6th, 1870, because of Jay Cooke's investment, because of those railroads, we became a city for the first time. And really, it's what gave us the advantage over Superior and why Duluth became the Zenith City.
Every city has its tall tales, and Duluth has one that has persisted about the construction of the canal. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, this is one of the great stories of Duluth, and I call it our defining creation myth. We dug the canal, and there were lawsuits that filed because Superior thought it was a move that really did, and in fact, it did hurt their shipping and hurt the growth of Superior. But the tall tale is that we heard that there was going to be an injunction delivered to stop the digging of the canal before it had even begun. And so the telegram arrived on a Friday, and on Saturday, 100 stout men with shovels and pickaxes dug the entire canal by hand in a day and a half. And that ended the battle and the pursuit and the whole thing. And it couldn't be further from the truth. There's so many versions of the tale that have cropped up over the years. It's just fascinating. We discussed them all in the book, but for me, it's that, this tale, I think, persists because Duluth's history is a series of picking itself up, these booms and busts, and the face of adversity, and the fact that 100 local guys would get shovels and dig a canal just for the sake of the future of the city. It's a great story.
We're in a period right now that people are talking about very historic with COVID-19, and some have compared it to the 1918 Spanish flu. What were things like around here during that, and what can we learn from it today?
Well, Duluth and Superior closed down for about 7 weeks. Restaurants, churches, schools, gathering places, theaters, like that. But everybody kept going to work, right? So you had these large factories with thousands of employees in there eating lunch in large cafeterias together, and situations like that. So, while we did have a similar ban, it wasn't quite the same. It lasted about 7 weeks. It was very fascinating times, and tragically, the day after we put our stay-at-home in place is the day the 1918 Cloquet fires began. So we had, at the same time, fire refugees, flu victims, all at once here in Duluth, and it was quite different than what we're going through today.
Now, your book carries that history all the way up to the modern day. Any thoughts about pulling it from the shelves and writing an extra chapter before you release it?
No, I'm glad this is another game changer of history, this pandemic, and things aren't going to be the same. So ending at the fall of 2019 with the last mayoral election in Duluth, just before Duluth starts its 150th year, I thought great place to stop.
All right. Well, this is a great place for us to stop, too, although we could keep talking with you for a lot longer. You do have a virtual book launch for Duluth, an Urban Biography, scheduled for April 15th at 7 p.m. Quickly, how can people access it?
Go to Minnesota Historical Society or the Historical Society Press or Zenith City and follow us on Facebook.
You're wrapping me up. Thank you, Tony.
All right.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.